Hey there, and welcome to the first episode of the Inner Pivot podcast. Um, uh, Today, we're going to talk about DMT, which is my favorite psychedelic, but it's also a chemical you can release through like different forms of breath work and meditating. I would guess it's responsible for a lot of religious belief systems and just based upon, the things you can experience in DMT and some descriptions you'd find from things like the Bhagavad Gita all the way into Abrahamic faiths. But first, I want to just, since it's my first episode, kind of break down what the vision is here. So I want to share wisdom that I've come across because, I just read a lot of books, I watch a lot of podcasts, and I have these like mental models of understanding that I've tested out in different areas of my life. So I want to throw them out there. Maybe they can be a use of to people. I know like now with my friend group and coworkers and people that I come across, a lot of people just come to me for advice and open up and know that I'll do my best to be of service. It's just how I've chosen to live my life. With a lot of humor for every inch of seriousness, a mile of silliness. So I'll help you out with something, but I might mess with you a little bit about it. But I also want to make this like a platform for everyday people to share their hero's journey, to share and reflect upon their own experience. Because a lot of the time, if you look back 5 years in your life, you'll find that, like, oh man, my life's improved a bunch if you reflect 5 years back and look at yourself from that perspective. But people never do that. And I wanted to give folks an opportunity and a platform and a place to do that, and talk about it. Just, I mean, all types of different people in my line of work. I'm in the financial services industry. I'm at dealerships. I see people's credit. I work on approvals. I meet the rich, the poor, everything in between. I mean, every type of interesting job. I meet people who work for Lockheed Martin that sometimes I think are definitely aliens, in human disguise, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I want to I guess be create a community and where those kinds of folks can be brought together and share wisdom from these different slices of life. And like with enough perspective from all these different slices of life, I think a wider and wider variety of people can benefit from those stories because, like, you may be 20 years past the hard parts of life, and now things are going good, but there's someone who is still trying to break a barrier you broke 10 years ago, or overcome a heartbreak, or overcome a failure that you overcame 15 years ago. And just hearing that someone else has done it and has gone through hell and been out the other side and can look back at the past and appreciate it for the beautiful teacher that it was. I think that concept is lost on us, and we only get the most granular versions of that on the internet, which is like these one-off dudes who get lucky and like that one dude who keeps gambling and winning, which is amazing. But I watched one or two of his interviews, and he's a full-blown degenerate gambler, or folks who make it big doing like internet stuff or TV stuff. Like that's all fine and dandy, but like we miss out on the opportunity to appreciate just the everyday wisdom that is dispensed across all of humanity. It's not just the folks you see on your screen going on cool vacations and buy nice cars. It's folks that you could meet in a service department that have a deep inner wisdom based on Eastern philosophy. It's dudes who are it's probably world class, and can beat any one salesman who's spent 10 years being fuck ups in life, and then stumbled into a dealership and started making $500,000 a year. It's there's such a wide variety of success, and I guess I just want to create a place where folks can explore that. But that being said, today I'm going to explore a few different DMT experiences I've personally had, and I really think some of this stuff could change the entire world. Like if everyone took this when they were 20 years old, we would have a very different world. um, yeah, let's get started. The first story. So this first story is actually This is back during COVID. I just started working out again, or trying to, and I went a little hard like the second day running, and I tweaked something in my lower back to the point where like I couldn't bend over to pick anything up. It was a wild level of pain. So I decided to just like, you know what? Let me see what DMT can do for me in this situation. So I go into, at the time we didn't have the house yet. We were in a two-bedroom apartment. So I go into our bedroom and I just lay on the floor, put a pillow down, put a blindfold on. Actually, no, this time I think I did it without the blindfold. And I just hit the DMT. I put my grounding music in. Usually, like whenever you do DMT, you want to meditate a few minutes, but I wasn't even in a state where I could meditate. The pain was just so piercing. So I just use a little bit of breath work to just center myself and clear my mind for like 2 minutes. And then I use grounding music with no audio, so like something Zen, Native American, raindrops, whatever you like, whatever you can use a bass line. Essentially, the prerogative behind that noise is to give you something to listen out for if you go too deep in your trip. So if you're walking around a spaceship as a lizard man, or seeing the Earth from the fifth dimension, on a raised platform or whatever, some crazy stuff, you won't hear anything, even if music's playing in the room, which is just a cool testament to the DMT trip itself and the potency of the experience. Because like you'll hear a kind of noise, and that your frequency or bandwidth or whatever conscious you're operating on, is changing, and it changes the visual and audible reality that you're interacting with, at least usually. Now, this time I was smoking out of a pen, which the pens are usually significantly less potent, but that's all I had. And so I lay down my back and I take the biggest rip that I can do. I take three more of those. I get to four hits. That's usually where I know I'm going to get something, especially if you're even out of the pen. So anyhow, I lay down, or I'm laying down, and I'm looking up, and when my eyes are closed, I just see this bubble around my face, and I see a group of beings. It was six like green faced beings. I couldn't see the details in their face, and I remember feeling this sensation. I didn't really know anything about chakras at the time, but like electricity shooting from what I know my root chakra all the way up my spine and back down. And as it's doing so, I'm feeling an expansion of range of motion and elasticity in the base of my spine, my lower back. So I start moving around, and like I'm just shocked. The pain's gone. Like, and I'm at a level of shock to where it's just like, oh my God, is this a placebo effect? Is this some sort of like delusion where now I can't feel the pain? And I'm having all these thoughts shoot off, like, is this even real? And I felt like something heard that thought, and it pierces his head. Well, first it was like almost like this white light came, and then the six green faces kind of, leave, and the white light pierced his head through this bubble around my face. And it was this woman made of light who I'd seen another trip or two. And, I felt like a humorous tone or energy coming from her, like, you silly thing. And she puts her hand down towards my face like this. And as her hand is touching my face, my cat, this orange tabby we have, puts his paw on my face, like perfectly synchronized when I was, seeing her hand touch it. So I open my eyes and I see his little nose right here. And, I found it to be hilarious and brilliant and mind blowing because, like, what called my cat to walk over my face that moment? How did that align with my thoughts and the movements, interactions of that being? Like that felt like this piercing, obvious, prod from this other dimension of reality. And there's always like this fear mongering about the entities that you're into when you do DMT. I never met a negative entity. I've been like afraid or nervous around entities, but that's usually because of my own like insecurity and ego. And they've always felt like a light kind of shining through me and clearing that stuff. to the point where now I know, like, okay, I gotta just, like naturally build mechanisms to manage my ego, my pride, and, all that stuff. And when you do that, DMT becomes this almost limitless resource that you can tap into. Just with one caveat, which is like for every inch of seriousness, a mile of silliness. So that means like if you have a DMT trip that you feel like really makes you take yourself real seriously and you're this and you're that, which is rare, but if you like puffing your ego, joke around a little bit, let the silliness take a hold. The universe is it's got like a sense of humor to it, and I feel like DMT really showcases that. And this next story actually really I think is a great way to showcase that. So so sometimes you can like if you've done DMT a lot, you kind of like tap into another person's trip with them or like get parts of it. It's weird. So a buddy of mine, he asked me to like go over to his house and give him a journey and just walk him through it. So I chose to do it on like this Saturday. I was off early. It was the perfect timing. I go over to his house and we go to the man cave. We set up in there and I give him the usual instructions: just sit down, breathe for a bit, clear your mind, think of nothing, and let's do this thing. So this dude, he's a older cat. He's got like a 20-year-old son. He's just a cool dude. Likes to ride motorcycles and stuff, but he's really into conspiracy theories. And a bit more of like he's a smart guy who puts a lot of mental energy into paranoid framing of things, which has its positives and negatives. And he's always tinkering with stuff, right? So that's usually like an interesting persona to explore the DMT space with. But anyhow, this dude takes his 4 hits and shoots off into oblivion, right? He's passed out like for 2 or 3 minutes and he gets up, he starts looking around the room. And I'm like, hey man, you good? Everything okay? And he doesn't say anything. He sits back down. Then he gets up, tries to get up again. And I'm like, hey, just sit down, relax, close your eyes. And then he goes back out, and then he gets up and just sits up and he's staring at me. And I'm like, hey man, do you need something? Are you good? You should be laying down, relaxing. Are you not feeling it? He's like, ugh. And then goes back out. So then when he comes back, I'm like, yeah, what did you experience? I'm thinking this dude was in like, on a lizard planet, and he's on a hunt or something, or just something real trippy. He's like, oh, I don't remember anything. I need a beer though. So he just gets up, goes, cracks a beer open. We go out to his backyard, and he's smoking a cigar and having a beer and trying to like unwind or come down or whatever. And I'm like, what did you see? And he's, I didn't see anything, you know? And like sometimes, because I took a hit with him before, before he started like getting up and, getting weird, because I thought he'd be fine ish. So I took a hit with him, which wasn't responsible on my part, but I was like I saw something. Like I saw this door, I saw like a little Joker face, I saw some other things. So I knew he'd seen something, but I didn't want to tell him I knew because that'd make it weirder. And he's like, well, I don't want to tell you what I saw. And I'm like, okay, why don't you want to tell me? 'Cause I just, I don't know. And so the next time I see him, we're just talking. And I bring it up, like, what did you see, dude? He's like, honestly, I saw this big door and there's a Joker face. And, I kept telling myself I wasn't going to see anything. So when I saw something like faces and stuff, it just fucking freaked me out. And I really wanted to know what else he'd experienced when he just got up and started looking around, but nothing. And on the subject of this weird like multiplayer version of consciousness you can experience, a few years ago, I had a bunch of coworkers I've been talking to about trying DMT and meditation and all that stuff. And it was a cool group of younger guys. Like they were into psychedelics. They were experienced. So I go over to their house and we just all sit down in a circle, and essentially just each person does it one by one. But the first person I did it with him, and I saw, like, literally saw this, like, me falling down this black hole, this big, gaping black hole. Okay. And then I hit the bottom. And, like, I looked at myself and like there was like a mirror or something, and I was him. I was my buddy, and there was this big giant woman, right? And she was like eating a planet, like it was a fruit, just like a grape or something. And she looked at me and she's like, "You need to listen to women more." And it was the wildest trip because I always listen to women. My mentor through a lot of my life was a woman, and just like it kind of blew my mind. So then I was asking the guy who did it with me, I'm like, "Hey, what did you experience?" And he told the same exact story, dot for dot for dot. It was like the first time I'd experienced this effect, I guess. And the only thing was when he was told to listen to women more, it was about women in his life. And one of them, I guess, was like his girlfriend or at the time had a bunch of feedback for him that he was ignoring. That he knew was true. About his like mental health and stuff. And so like it ended up being a positive thing for him where he was able to I guess tap into the feminine perspective in his own life, which is one of the weird and amazing ways DMT tends to weave itself into you, whatever you're going through, but also makes it this wider contextual thing that like leads you down on the rabbit holes. Like I started reading into who that woman was, and ended up being a Hindu god. The name slips my mind right now because it's like midnight when I'm recording this. Actually, it's my birthday almost. But I just wanted to do this before my birthday, so I sat down and put this video together. This is how DMT helped me discover the infinite leverage glitch on Robinhood. It's a bit more of a degenerate story than my usual ones. But this is a younger, wilder version of me. I decided that, I got real into buying shares of companies and then selling 2 year out option contracts, which in itself is not a terrible idea. But then what I started doing was doing it with the stinkers, like Peloton, what was that one? There was this one that was just constantly getting reverse split, and then a wolf speed. And there were some good ones here and there too. Like I got myself into GameStop with it too. But I started just smoking DMT and asking the beings questions about like different ideas, like how can I create a lot of wealth? And they threw this idea out there. Weirdly enough, I had to turn on margin and keep doing what I was doing. So I found that interesting. I decided to turn on margin, and something that I realized was if you buy 100 shares, for example, for $100, right? And you sell a contract 2 years out above what you bought the shares for, but not much, and you collect a premium of more than 50% of what you paid for the shares, on Robinhood at the time, I was getting back a net credit for buying shares. So just stop and think for a second. I'm getting I spend $100 buying shares, and then I sell the option contracts, and then I'm essentially getting margin on the premium that I'm getting, either the contract is incomplete. So that means now I have, with margin, maybe $104 instead of the $100 I bought the shares with. So I started doing this a bunch on one stock. I forgot which stock it was, and then I got a concentrated margin position. I had to look up what that meant because Robinhood doesn't call you; they just tell you, "Hey, put 25 grand in." Then I realized I had to unwind some of these positions, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I was getting kind of nervous. So I jumped back into the DMT place, and I'm just like, "Hey guys, what do I do now?" And the download that I got, and when I say download, like they'll show you like a weird image, and then you're like, oh, that makes sense, boom. So like I think it was like a Doge dog that they kept hitting me with, and for whatever reason to me that meant diversify. So I started diversifying all my positions to avoid the concentrated margin thing. So obviously when you're trying to do something like this, you're looking for specific parameters, which is a high premium option contract and a company that's relatively high in volatility. Well, that has some downsides, which I didn't fully think about when I was doing this, so bear with me. I ended up like leveraging like a $5,000 account to three or 400 grand doing this, right? Now the caveat is I can't pull out the 400 grand right now. I need all these companies to remain relatively solvent, and and also they had to chill out for 2 years, right? Like I had to maintain the position for 2 years. So I remember for like 6 or 7 months, I'm plugging in little bits of money here and there just to maintain these margin calls. Because if like if all these positions move down 1%, I got to come up with every penny of difference because I'm maxing out the margin. Just a silly position idea, right? If you reflect on it. But anyhow, there was this one day where I kept doing it, and I had like 25 grand, um, in premium just sitting in the account. So I decided, you know what, man, I'm just pulling this 25 grand because the market had been going up, all my positions have been going up. And I pull the 25 grand out, and then my account goes into like this super margin call where everything's blocked, and they just started selling everything aggressively. It turns out you can't, like I built out this whole position out with 5 grand. So when they finally called me, they're like, hey man, you're at like 200 times leverage, 100 times leverage almost. We can't let these positions stay. We need the money you just took out back. And so I just hung up and just ignored it for a bit. And I don't recommend doing that, but it ended up working out. I think they're just like. They knew they fucked up because they were violating margin rule T or something like that. I think it's regulation T actually. So it ended up working out okay for me, and that was a few years ago. Now, you know, with the whole DMT, financial advice thing, I recommend keeping it more grounded. I'm gonna give you a better way to use it in this next story. This is back from when I was buying my house. So I was just stressing out over the paperwork. Like I was just stressing out over the whole getting approved process, picking the right house, all that jazz. But the approval process was a doozy because I hadn't filed taxes in like 2 years, which was, immature on my part, but it happens. And so they really needed tax returns. And I think I was going through Navy Fed at the time. Navy Fed totally dropped me mid purchase, so I had to find a different dude to help me with the whole thing. I had to go to the IRS and get my tax returns, all this stuff. And if it didn't work out, I'd lose the earnest money, which is like a nice chunk of my down payment. It would have been kind of devastating to me. It was like really stressing me out. Like I couldn't sleep for a couple nights. So, I used the DMT crutch, and I smoked some DMT. I don't know what my intention was because, like, honestly, there's nothing DMT was going to help me with in this situation. It was just a purely mental situation, right? But anyhow, I smoked it good enough to, like, have one of the more transcendental experiences where I woke up in a big egg-shaped thing, right? And like I could see out of it, or I could see from the inside of it, but you couldn't see into it. I don't know, how I knew that, but like I pop my head out and like I sit up and I look, and there's thousands of them in a big circular setup. And it was like a big spaceship, like you could literally see space. Like we're all just in this big hibernation chambers or whatever. And then as I'm popping up, like a few more people just in a big row, like seven of them or six of them, all woke up, and it was almost like my group woke up with me or something. And so one of them comes over. This is a woman. She looked like she was made of light, which I'd seen in other trips, like I mentioned. And I start vomiting up all this stuff in my house about buying a house and how stressful it is. And it was almost like she was like laughing at me. She was like, "Dude, what are you talking about?" And then she put her hand on my heart, and I felt this explosion of like that tight, compressed feeling you get in your chest when you're stressed out. I felt that all release, and I felt this explosion of calm and this feeling of, man, chill out. Things are always gonna work out just fine. But it was beautiful because like I went from stress to crying and joy, and I just knew things were gonna work out after that. But more importantly, she impressed into me. She's like, but use, like, when you get a house, don't just make it a house, make it a home, and like make it a place where you can be a service to others. And I always do try and do that. Like I invite, usually friends or people that I meet at work or whatever. over to just talk about life, see how I can help them in any way, shape, or form, or see what I can learn from them. I've made so many interesting friends just sitting across from them at a dealership as their finance manager. And I think they didn't expect it, and I didn't expect it, which makes for the best friendships. But anyhow, I got one last story, and then that's the end of episode 1 of the Inner Pivot podcast. So this last journey taught me that everything is connected, from the like small interactions you have moment to moment with strangers, to the changes you want to see in the world around you. So this trip, I had just hit the DMT. I was laying back, and I immediately I saw this like vortex of black, like shadowy energy, and I saw my soul shooting through it, and that vortex started turning into white light. And I shot out the other end, and I was on this platform with that woman made of light that I talked to in these last few trips. I talked about in these last few stories. And, I was looking at her face. There's no like detail of the face, but there's this radiating beauty. I don't know how to explain it. And she was showing me the earth, like from the curvature of the earth, while we're on this raised platform that's just like floating. From what I understood to be the fifth dimension. I didn't know what that meant. Still don't know conceptually or contextually fully what that means. But I understood it in that moment for whatever reason. I just asked her, I'm like, what does this mean? And she pointed to, like, I saw this pipe that was we were like right over. It was down beneath us, and it was a see-through pipe that was pumping light into the earth. And at the far end of the Earth, the other side of the Earth, there was another platform like ours that seemed to have like another pipe, but it was sucking like darkness out of the Earth. Um, and I don't know how I knew this, I guess intuitively. But then I asked her, I'm like, so why are you showing me this? And she's like, because you have to do your part too. And I'm thinking, oh man, like I'm crying right now. Like I'm going to get some grand mission. I'm special. And then she put her hand on my heart and she said, be nicer. And I looked at her, I'm like, what do you mean? She said, quit smoking cigarettes. And, but she was like, be nicer. And she started showing me different instances where perhaps I was like judging people or being rude. Like, I think it's because I was at the time like kind of new to sales, and still like every month I felt like an imposter. And there's a saying by Ram Dass that I love: to a thief, even a holy man is but his pockets. Which means, like, you could be meeting these great people, but all you see is what you can get out of them. And as long as you live like that, you'll always not get everything you can out of every connection you make. And I don't know, that was one of those things where, like, in 10 minutes, DMT changed my life and changed my perspective on anything. But anyhow, it is 10 minutes till my official birthday. I'm going to do a little bit of gaming. But thank you for checking out the podcast. I'm going to keep working on improving the setup. Like, I notice the camera right now is zooming in and out. But I just wanted to begin the process. We will be having a few guests on coming soon. Please subscribe, like, comment. If you got any good like DMT trip experiences, or you had a trip in meditation, share them. And yeah, let's start building a community where we can share ideas and experiences that we've had. And like the next one I got for you guys is pretty interesting. It's going to be how to take $100,000 bet on yourself and only risk 25 grand. But thank you. Y'all have a great night.